crying for a child? Dear friends, push. In the times and age of suffering and struggle, push. Of embracing life's pain and enduring this living struggle, push. Blessings to you all. Elders say push. Grieving may be as goes, unbelievable. This isn't real. I don't believe this. Why is this happening? Push. Outrage, seeing red, going off the deep end. I'll show you. Push. How about a tit for tat, a zero-sum game? Push. Desolation. I don't want to do this anymore. Sinking, shaking, falling down. Step 1, ask God why. Like, why me? Step 2, tell God how you really feel. Really, really feel. May involve tears, screaming, maybe breaking some shit. Step 3, bargain like, God, I'll be your man if you take away the pain. Step 4, the loneliness, pain, and agony when they don't get it. You explain and pour out all you have, and it's never enough. Step 5, realize you are here. You are still here. Hashtag disclaimer, when taking responsibility isn't enough, when taking responsibility for another isn't working, may have side effects. Side effects include cold sweats in the middle of the night, doing so much for others you forget to take care of you, being broke, forgetting to eat, inability to make decisions, crazy calls from family and friends who forget you were in the hospital, looking strong when you feel weak, confusion. So even now, push. A good struggle may be all you can give this world. So in the final stage of grief, accept with humility the small call God has given you, knowing that without Him, words and actions are meaningless. So brace yourself like a man and cry out for help. Our sorrow may last nights, but joy comes in the morning. Our best turns to ashes, but beauty rises. Our spirits may be heavy, but oil of gladness brings joy. And live embracing suffering and enduring struggle for God as you can. So, push. Elders say push. Oh, brother, they martyr us, man.
Ooh, that gave me chills. Welcome, everybody, to my Icon Corner. I am Young Penitent, and tonight we are bringing on as a guest a friend, the Real Lazar, and you just heard his spoken word piece, his latest and greatest, called Push. And so I'm going to bring him to the stage. Before we do that, just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you will be able to join in on the fun when we go live. And with that, I'll add him to the stage. Welcome, brother. Welcome, Lazarus.
What's up, bro? How you doing, YP?
Good. How are you?
Doing better than I deserve. Thank God, is according to what Father Turbo says.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like that. That's a really inspiring piece that we just played there at the beginning. You just wrote that recently, right?
That's over probably a year old. But
a year old?
I recently finished it, mixed and mastered, yeah.
Mixed and mastered? You do that yourself? You have someone else do that for you?
I have somebody else do that for me, and I have somebody else make the beats for me, depending on, it was one producer. Shout out to the producer Just One Way. He made the beat for me. And but the writing process took maybe 4 months, but the inspiration of that story, for the motivation behind it, is 10 years, 12 years.
Took you 4 months to write that? Wow, like that's just like iterations and rough drafts and stuff, and or what?
Yeah, iterations, rough drafts, a lot of editing, structurally editing words, changing the sequence of the words,
I mean, it's just well done. Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves though. We need to get you introduced to the audience first, who you are. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience for us?
Well, hi, audience. My name is Real Lazar. That's my artist name. I am a poet, writer, spoken word artist, rapper, sometimes singer. I write and do rap and poetry for lost souls, misfits, outcasts, to not feel alone, find belonging, and a way home. I usually do CHH, which is Christian hip hop, from an Orthodox perspective, as I am an Orthodox Christian. I have a background before being Orthodox with being Pentecostal and charismatic. And let's see what else. I love to do music. I love writing. I do this to help hopefully impact others on their journey. Like I said, for them not to feel alone, because I know what that was like. So for wanderers and the wounded.
Okay, gotcha. So tonight we're gonna probably hear your story, your testimony. Sometimes it's helpful for other Orthodox Christians, who are, maybe themselves on that journey of finding Christ. Sometimes it helps to just hear the stories of other people who have gone through, their own journey, their own arc, of salvation kind of thing. Two meanings to that, you could say, finding the arc of salvation, and you have your own arc, your story as a person. So like, I do want to talk about your art and your music. I think I honestly feel that you're a talented wordsmith. You're good with, it's one of your that's your talent, kind of like you're like, you and me are kind of kindred spirits in that sense, and then we're able to use words and write them down and make sense of the world with art.
Thank you.
But why don't we start with your story? Just tell us, how you got started. Well, maybe how you found the church, I guess. Why don't you? Let's start when you were young. Start from the beginning.
Okay.
Your childhood, and what was your upbringing? Were you Christian growing up? All that.
I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a native to Charlotte, North Carolina. My mom had me in her early 20s, in the 80s. I'm 40 years old now. The story goes that she was at a clinic where they asked her to schedule an abortion, and she ran every red light back to her house to have me, to keep me. And so, 9 months later, I was born, brought into the world screaming of a complicated pregnancy and delivery, and more or less a miracle child. And grew up in Charlotte. My mom is a single mother, grew up without my biological dad. He was into some stuff. He was in too deep, so to speak. And was raised
too
around.
Deep. What do you mean by in too deep?
He was into some stuff that he went the wrong path, so to speak.
So, like drugs and stuff, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Drugs and just stuff that I'm not privy to talk about, honestly.
Okay. All right.
But I was raised with my grandparents, my Nana and my grandfather. My grandmother was a valedictorian of her high school, and my grandfather was in the Battle of the Bulge. He was part of the 101st Airborne. He did a tour in France, a tour in Africa, a tour in Italy. He was stationed in Japan, stationed all over the U.S. And finally, when he retired from the Army and then retired from the Air Force working on airplanes, the family moved from upstate New York, because he worked for IBM and they moved to Charlotte. So I grew up with my mom and them. And my mom in the 80s changed her life. She did a complete 180 after she had me, a couple of years before, actually. And she started going to a Church of God church, which is like a COG. It's kind of like it's a Pentecostal version of spirituality. And she got clean, sober, started raising me with the help of my grandmother and grandfather. Then she met a guy who became my stepdad, and we moved to Western North Carolina. Those were my formative years of teenage rebellion and doing very poorly in high school because I didn't feel challenged and was just a misfit. Hung out with the misfits, never seemed to fit in or belong. Was just kind of pigeonholed to be one of the undesirables, so to speak, or listening to alternative music, whether it be punk rock or alternative metal or hip hop. And I still have a high school friend to this day. I've known him for 20 years. He actually came to my baptism, but I won't fast forward the conversation to that. So grew up in Hendersonville, North Carolina. It's near Asheville, North Carolina. I excelled at visual arts. And then I got into graffiti, which started my love for hip hop. Eventually, I started dating a girl in high school, and she was goth, and her mom had passed, and it's kind of controversial, but she either passed, unfortunately, by taking her own life, or was somebody took her life. And she was, like I said, goth. She was into Marilyn Manson and some other, deeply dark writings, books that I knew nothing about, and no one should know nothing about. So we dated for 3 years and then broke up. She left me, and I went through a deep depression for about a year or more and wound up in the hospital. And during that time, around my high school graduation, my stepdad and my mom split. He always put food on the table, put clothes on my back, took me to movies, took me to concerts. I remember seeing The Matrix with him. That when that movie came out, I remember going to see like the Red Hot Chili Peppers one time. So just did everything, that a father figure can do to try to connect with a teenager that is just rebelling. So when I had my breakdown, I ended up in the hospital and was diagnosed with a very controversial, stigmatized diagnosis, which fast forward a little bit, I'm actually in recovery and remission for over 10 years now from it. It's schizoaffective disorder. And I find that the Orthodox Church, with Jesus Christ being the head of the church, being a living organism, so to speak, has the tools and the structure to help those with diagnoses or mental health problems of the noose, more or less. Also the structure of the church, the rhythm of the church, the community of the church, So I was in and out of the hospital for 10 years, over 10 times, each time about a month, and couch surfing for a while, moving from here to there, friends, making a lot of friends and being at the mercy of others. Meeting a lot of very solid people that had their own issues, but had a lot of empathy. Those rough around the edges types that will break bread with you and share their last dollar with you. Those kind of folks. So it was quite the journey. It's quite the pilgrimage and adventure for quite a long time. And then I had 3 seasons of mentors because I started reading the Bible in my early 20s. While after my stepdad and my mom split, I was searching for
You
truth.
didn't have any brothers or sisters?
I have a half sister, but I didn't grow up with her. I didn't meet my biological father or my half sister until I was 25.
Oh, okay.
So yes, I have a half sister and I have a niece and 3 nephews.
That's probably a story right there about meeting your father.
Yes,
Your
definitely.
biological.
Yes. So let me backtrack a little bit, and then I'm going to move forward to that. Trying to think where I was at.
You were talking about you're reading the Bible.
Yeah. So after my mom and my stepdad split, I had already been dipping into like spirituality, just trying to figure out stuff, like basically agnosticism. Like I didn't really jive with the fire and brimstone Baptist kind of take on stuff. Seemed too angry, too aggressive. It didn't make sense to me, and I can't really tell you why it didn't make sense to me at that time, but it didn't. Knowing now what I understand of the scriptures and especially the Orthodox Church, of how warm and welcoming and kind, the fruits of the Spirit is different. So I started reading the Bible. I think I first read Romans, and I had no vernacular for the words used in Scripture. It was just a book, a holy book at that, but it was like, where did this come from? That kind of question. Didn't know that this is a Eastern religion. It was not a fairy tale, but it impacted me and very real. So I started looking up different books after reading like the other spiritual stuff, like Carlos Castaneda and some other stuff like that.
I read him too when I was in college. I was like, a book got passed around and someone handed me that book.
Yeah.
Later found out that it was just a fiction.
Right. Like Iron John, like the hero's journey and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So after reading the Bible, I found some churches, but where I was at the time was very like traditional in a staunch sense, just kind of like that old-timey religion, kind of like old folk religion kind of thing. It just is what it is. I don't have a very gentle way of saying that, but we didn't have a good time trying to find a church when my mom in Charlotte had a community surrounding her that the older gentleman there sponsored me and helped me when I was little, which meant a lot to her and to me, looking back, to thank them now. So my breakdown in reading the Bible happened around the same time. But I had hope as an agnostic that God existed and that reading the Gospel of John and the letter of John, 1 John, that God is love. And I was just kind of pushing all my chips and banking on that. That was my more or less starting place, so to speak. And thoroughly just kept reading Paul, reading the Psalms, praying prayers in my own words, kind of spontaneous prayers. And God answered a lot of those pretty quickly. I had one friend a while back that said, when all these things happened in my life, it was like God said, that's enough. I heard his cry and, I'm going to rescue him. And that's what happened. So fast forwarding some, after these hospital stays and reading scripture and meeting people at different charismatic churches, I had 3 seasons of mentors. And this was around the same time that I reunited with my biological father. And he since passed, unfortunately. Um, he passed December 25th of last year. He was a construction worker and had a very hard life. Um, this is like a story made for movies. I mean, it's like reconciliation and crises and all sorts of stuff. Uh, but he was a construction worker in his later when well he started working when he was like 14, and he worked for his entire life. And he got in a motorcycle wreck when he was uh, maybe in his 30s, and he ended up having 2 spinal reconstructive surgeries in his entire life, and he had to have uh, malignant brain tumors removed from him. So, upon meeting him, the story goes that he met me. I found my sister's number and called her, and I was kind of aware that I had a half sister, like the whereabouts.
So you met your father and then got your sister's number, or how did it?
I got my half sister's number, and then I met my father.
How did you get the number?
I think my aunt gave it to me and found it online or something.
Okay.
Or found it online. I'm not sure. But I remember crying out because my mom had a crisis and trauma in her life, and we were apart at that time. My mom and I were not in the same location geographically, and I just cried out to God, like, I don't even know my dad. Like, my mom's going through some really hard times right now, probably the hardest she ever went through in her life. Domestic abuse stuff. I feel like, I've seen some of my friends and family go through the worst of the worst, and I mean the worst of the worst. So I got a big heart, empathy, mercy. I'm a fighter. If you love, you got to be a fighter. So the story goes, I called my sister. She got on the phone and she says, well, I my brother-in-law picks up the phone, and I said, hi, is Melissa there? That's her name. And he goes, who is this? Because it's another man calling, asking for his wife. It was a funny story. So I said, this is Devin. And he goes, oh, hands her the phone. She goes, this is your sister. So she ends up calling my dad, and he is a mess emotionally, and comes over to the house that night. We all meet. A lot of tears are shed. A lot of forgiveness is spoken. There's just a lot of unpacking of memories and stories and apologies. And
Did you have resentment growing up?
of course.
Yeah.
It was more like a angry type of wonder, because when you're little, you can't understand that stuff. You have no framework. You're just growing up without a parent in your life, and you're like, where are they? What are they doing? Don't they care about me?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it's just your normal. It's like, well, so and so's got a mom and dad, but I only have a mom.
Yep. That's a very common sentiment,
Yeah. So
did he tell you what did he explain himself?
Yeah, part of it and a lot of it was him working through his own issues, but a lot of it was him keeping me safe.
Okay.
Yeah. So, where was I? So we met, and then I ended up living with him for a while, one-on-one. And this is where it gets kind of blurry linearly. But I had 3 seasons of mentors. The first was a charismatic MDiv who really got in the trenches with me and helped sort out my life. Shout outs to Stephen Crosby. Man means a whole lot to me. He really just sat with me through pain and helped me navigate a lot of things internally and emotionally and spiritually and theologically. He actually is, he believes the Nicene Creed. He would go to the Orthodox Church if it was closer to him. Closest one he has is an hour away, and he's in his 70s now. But he told me, the story goes, he said, before this is all over with, you'll be Orthodox. So he advocated for me to just more or less knowing that this was going to happen. Second mentor I had, lady named Lisa. She does a thank you for the comment. See, it says, it's inspiring to see you bear your soul like this. Good strength, brother. Appreciate you, Castle Incorporated. I hope this reaches some people and helps some people out. Where is that?
You just had
Lisa. I met a lady named Lisa, African American lady, who is a national director of a prayer movement that had a non-denominational like prayer movement, like it was like and also like a neo-monastic community. Like she actually let me live with her and her family for a while because I had nowhere to go. She scooped me up, really merciful to me, hospitality, help, just the full gambit. And stayed with her and her husband and her son and learned a lot. That's actually where I got my first hands on a book, The Apostolic Fathers and the Didache. So I started little bit at that time, started living out into the Didache, into the rhythms of the Didache at that point. I'm pronouncing that wrong, but the Didache, or
I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, the teaching of the 12 apostles. That was an oral tradition that's now written down. So, and the third mentor is a guy named Michael Hardin, who another MDiv. Shout outs to Mike. He may never watch this. I may send it to him though, so he watches it. He tracked with me on the path. That's how he would say it. For like 2, 3, 4 years. Stephen introduced me to him. And he studied Barth, Bonhoeffer, and Kierkegaard and actually grew up Catholic. And he was also a pupil of Rene Girard. So he wasn't no slouch. And learned a lot from this brother. And he was very helpful in my journey. He actually studied Native American culture and survivalist training. He was a cool dude. So with those 3 mentors, they really enriched my life. And after I lived with Lisa, let me back up.
Oh, we have a comment here. Matthew Johnson says Didache is how it's pronounced. So there we go.
There we go.
Didache.
I said corrected. Thank you.
So greetings to everyone else in the chat. Mr. Westford's here.
Yeah, go ahead, comment. More questions and comments from the
comments is good.
Love the interaction.
Yeah, I gotta liven it up for the people watching, I guess. All right.
So So, my last time I was in the hospital, uh, after the 10 years was the 11th time. And that was, not a mental health thing. I ended up getting sick before I lived with Lisa and her family. I was living with some roommates, and I got sick with double pneumonia, and I was in a medicated coma for a month. And truth is, I pieced out and came back.
Wow.
Hence the artist name, The Real Lazar.
Oh, gotcha.
Lazarus is my patron saint.
That's why you chose that?
Happy 40 days into Bright Week. Christ is risen.
Surely is risen. So that's why you chose that him as a patron saint, because you...
Yeah. Proper theological term, I'm guessing, from my studies is resuscitation.
Resuscitation.
Yeah.
Brody, greetings to Brody Alexander, young old boy. Okay.
So,
did you see a light? Did you see the light?
I had, truth be told, honestly, I had a vision before, like 2 weeks before.
Oh, right. Do you want to tell that?
Sure, I can. I knew I was going out because I had a vision of Christ on the cross.
Oh, okay.
And, hopefully, legitimate what it meant to me and what it means to me.
We don't know. Yeah, I mean,
right.
Yeah.
But as, I was gazing at this vision, whether in the body or out of the body, as St. Paul said, I do not know. Just this love that Christ had on the cross, like, I've done this for you. I'm doing this for you. This is for you. And that, and then what kind of gives a little more significance to this is that I saw a symbol, and I had to look up what that symbol was later. I had to I saw it. It's funny enough, the Orthodox Church that that my confessor is at, the symbol is on the front of the church. What is that symbol? It's a Chi-Rho. And
show us the...
Oh yeah, I have a tattoo of it. So I saw that symbol in the vision, and just what it means to me. This is a mystical experience that I can put words to, but it's far beyond that. What it means to me is that I belong to Christ, just as every other member in the Orthodox Church belongs to Christ. And we're loved by him. So with that,
I got to say that,
what's up?
For a person in the church, like the idea of someone having a vision or, something like that, it's not too uncommon. It's kind of, people kind of expect these kind of experiences almost for people in the church. You hear these kind of stories a lot. If you're growing up in America in a secular culture, and maybe you don't have, you're just watching TV growing up like we did, or whatever, you don't hear about these kind of things. It's not on TV. You don't know about it. So it seems kind of like, what is that real? I don't get it, man. You're just, you kind of would question it, but I don't see, I mean, obviously it's like you said, we don't know if it was genuine or not, but, I had another person I met at a monastery once tell me that he had a vision, and he told me the reason he thought it was real was because this vision started happening to him and he couldn't stop it. He didn't have any power over, this vision that appeared to him. So, I mean, that was his test, that what he told me. So, and that sounds kind of like, I mean, is that, what were you like, lying in your hospital bed or what when this happened?
No, I wasn't even in the hospital then. I was at a charismatic church and praying, and during a service, and
okay.
I had no, like, I was in control of my body. I knew where I was, but then at a certain moment, I didn't know where I was, and I couldn't see myself, and I was in a vision, so to speak.
Okay.
So, and I had no control over it. I couldn't stop it. I didn't stop it. It stopped when it stopped. So, but yeah, so that's why I chose my patron saint, Lazarus. So 3 seasons of the mentors, meeting my dad, meeting my sister. Eventually, after my living with my last mentor, I moved down to Charleston, South Carolina, and I went to my first Orthodox church in Charleston, South Carolina during COVID, where shout outs to Father John. He was the first Orthodox priest I met in person. Very kind to me. Thank God. Read me like a book, with the pages worn and the spine broken and just dusty, just up, down, left, and right. Just the spiritual acuteness of the Orthodox Church is bar none. And I kept coming back. It was almost, it was humbling. It was humbling, the encounter I had with Father John, but I kept coming back and started going to services. But then I ended up moving back to Charlotte. My dad was sick. We knew he was going out, and he passed while I was in Charlotte. And then my mom came up and moved to Charlotte. And now I watch after her, and she watches after me. She's older. She still gets around fine. Go ahead.
Matthew wants me to bring up this picture. So here's your Chi-Rho symbol.
Right.
And I believe this is the vision that St. Constantine had, right? When he was like going to battle.
That's as the legend and tradition states, yes.
Yep. So he saw this in the sky. He went and said, "In this sign, conquer."
Yeah, that's where we get the ICXCNIKA from. The flag behind me. Yeah.
So
went to my first Orthodox church, moved back to Charlotte eventually. We have 2 cathedrals here, and I met with one priest for 5 months, but then eventually met with another priest and chose him as my confessor and spiritual father. My mom did as well. He's the one that baptized us. We were received by baptism, chrismation, and Holy Communion March 16th, 2024, Cheese Fair Saturday. It was a private service. We asked for one. We had friends and some of the faithful, some of the newly illuminated from the year before who came. And I was just in the moment. It was a lot to soak in. We just previously had just a few weeks ago, we had 20 new people received, and I was reliving kind of that experience, through hearing the prayers and everything again. So during COVID, I was reading, I had read a lot in my life besides the Bible. I had read Protestant authors and charismatic authors and different spirituality and philosophy and stuff. And I've read over several hundred books. So I was reading St. Athanasius and St. Basil and St. Maximus the Confessor, and but big shout out to scholar, and I think he's got an MDiv or a PhD. He is a dean at St. Stephen's University in Canada, and and he is also an author. He co-authored a book with William Paul Young, who wrote The Shack. And this guy, who is my buddy, his name's Bradley Jerzak. He is the first Orthodox author I read. He wrote a book called A More Christ-Like God. And that set the stage for me charting the path ahead of me, because I prayed maybe a year before, God, give me the ancient paths. And he did. God surely did. So Bradley Jerzak played an important role in my life. Haven't met him in person yet, but have corresponded with him. And his books meant a lot to me. He actually has one of the most impactful, important books that I've read, which is a children's book. And it's called Jesus Showed Us. I think it's a very good book, even for adults to read, like recalibration almost, or discipleship or catechism, because it just it gets the point across about, who Jesus is, his life, his death, his burial, his resurrection, his ascension, and his enthronement. And it's a beautiful book with watercolor pictures. So I was reading all those books, and I'm up to 40 Orthodox books now. And joining the church was beautiful. And for a while I was going on my own by myself. Thank God my mom joined with me. And we have a beautiful community here between 2 cathedrals and a few other parishes. And anybody who's inquiring that's going to listen to this, I just say, come and see. The ancient faith has been here for 2,000 years and is still here and is not going anywhere. It's what, Christ passed to the apostles, and the apostles passed to their disciples. As for theological matters, I can't talk on anything about that, but simply the profound impact and effect that Christ and his church has had on my life. The sheer magnitude of the health and healing that I've received is invaluable, thank God.
So you said health and healing. Maybe you can expand on that. How has being part of the church helped you, changed you? How has that impacted your life?
It's a ontological change. It's a being change. It's kind of mysterious, but also the practicality of the tools and the practice of, the church calendar with fasting and feasting, and the prayers and liturgical prayer and the services and going to church and being in the services and being at home and praying your prayers and using the prayer books and having icons as reminders and representations and venerating the icons and lighting candles, lighting incense. Let our prayers arise to God. Also rather than try to fight the darkness, light a candle. So what else? The Jesus prayer. The Jesus prayer is powerful because we're calling on the second person of the Trinity. He's living, he's alive. And he answers. And I find that it's our most powerful tool against what psychology calls intrusive thoughts, and what the ancient church says otherwise about. And there's a differentiation, which I'm not getting into, with like the monastics' view on certain things, and it's far above my pay grade. But personally, in my experience, prayer was one of the huge focuses from my life in my healing. Others praying for me, being to services, which, there's chanting, and the chants are prayers and the chants are worship, and prayer at home, and not just getting answers to prayers, but like prayer as a rhythm, as focusing my attention on Christ. So those are some of the things that have brought healing and health, and it's still a process. It's still ongoing, Like, we were saved, we are saved, and we're being saved by the grace of God.
Yeah, and the being in church during services it's a whole formation. It's like it
Right.
forms you as a person. I mean, if you're listening, and even if you're not listening, the atmosphere in church affects you, imperceptibly. Right. There's a super chat from Matthew Johnson, $5. Thank you, sir. He's been supporting the channel quite a bit. And he says, Christos Anesti, amazing story thus far, Lazarus. Curious how much of Father Seraphim Rose you have read, and which of his readings most impacted you?
I'm wearing the Seraphim Rose t-shirt from...
there it is.
Yeah, from... what is it?
Death to the World?
Death to the World, yeah. The punk sign. Shout out to Justin Marler. I have read Religion of the Future, his book on nihilism, and I can't remember if I read another one, but Religion of the Future is great, and I don't have anything bad to say about it, but his book on nihilism didn't impact me that much, but that's a powerful book because he unpacks society's main issue, especially for youth.
Yeah. It still is too. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah. People don't believe in anything. They just believe in themselves mainly. They believe. Abbot Trifon says, the religion of people today is to worship the self as God. I know Matthew didn't ask me this question, but but Seraphim Rose had a huge impact on me. I went in. I think his prayers had an impact on me because I went to his monastery right before I decided. I remember I went and visited Platina, and when I came back, I remember the exact moment. There was a moment in time when I would say I converted and I submitted to Christ. And I can still remember that exact moment. It was right when I came back from the monastery, and I believe it was through his prayers and the prayers of St. John. So yeah, and then I went and read everything he wrote, and in
St. John of Shanghai and San Francisco.
Yeah. Because his prayers, he's there at the monastery too. His prayers are with that brotherhood, and when I interviewed Father Peter Hears, he said, or was it? No. What was her name? I interviewed a lady talking about Father Seraphim Rose, and her name is skipping my mind. But anyhow, her spiritual father said that Father Seraphim Rose was his first spiritual father. I think he serves as a spiritual father to people through his books. And I said, I kind of feel like that, he was guiding me when I was an infant Christian,
Yeah.
So big. That's why I put a whole song on my album dedicated to Seraphim Rose, because he was that big of an influence on me. So I'm sorry I know we're interviewing you though, but
it's all right. Words. So I read my way into the church more or less, and my biggest points of what drew me were prayer, mystery, and authority. My questions about authority, of who has authority, who's not making stuff up. Prayer, as in, I love liturgical prayer. I'm glad the Orthodox Church has prayer books. And mystery, as there'll be some things that I'll never be able to comprehend or understand, and that's okay. And I don't have to have an answer for everything. I can hold fast to the traditions of the faith, but I don't have to have an apologetic for everything, because I'm not arguing somebody into an idea. I'm going to tell them the impact that the living God has had on my life. So that's about, and now being in the Orthodox Church is just like, I'm home. I knew when I first entered the church in Charleston, I was home, but it was ancient and it was Eastern, and I was a guest. I still consider myself a guest. And sometimes I say, people ask me, are you Orthodox? And I say, well, one day I hope to be. So,
but you are Orthodox.
I am, but I'm still in that. I'm still,
maybe just
making my way.
I think you should just say you're unworthy to, but yes, like that's right. Because you're baptized, you're Orthodox. You
right.
take
unworthy and loved.
Yes. Yeah. All right, now we want to. What's that?
Talk about music now?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna pivot to. Yeah, I want to hear about the music. Like, how did you get into this? Do you want to start with your song, or do you want to just talk about it first here?
Yeah, let's talk first. So back in high school, I started listening. I was already listening to POD and Rage Against the Machine. POD is still one of my favorite bands. Shout out to them. Yes, by God's grace, most definitely. Thanks, Castle. And I listened to a hip hop group named Black Alicious with an MC by the name of Gift of Gab, and found out what was possible with words and lyricism in hip hop, and that sparked a writing process in me and a love for hip hop. And then I started listening to underground secular rap, and then eventually it crossed over to Christian rap, like artists like Lecrae. And then funny story is I threw out all my secular music, underground rap and everything. And at the time it was good for me. It's what I needed to do. It was a purge. And I ended up getting a few of those albums back later, like some stuff that I wasn't quite sure at the time back then, but I got rid of it anyway. And now I have more of a, let's say, a better understanding of what art is and can be. But I was like Lecrae, listened to him, his album After the Music Stops. And I ended up meeting him and meeting some others that do Christian hip hop, like shout outs to Derek Minor. Met him online, haven't met him in person yet. Shout outs to Propaganda. Shout outs to some local MCs here in Charlotte, Cartwright and Omega Sparks. And I started writing, and these local brothers took me under their wings, basically, here in Charlotte. And I've known them and some others for over 15 years. And to this day still talk. And then just started writing, started making music. I put out my first spoken word album, Into Me You See. It's not the best, but it's where I started. Then I put out a CHH album that was my attempt. And it is a sonic journey that is a is like a catechesis journey of orthodoxy, of like praxis. It's called the Established EP. And then I put out a spoken word track called Can I Pay You to Tell Me I Am Not Alone, which is about mental health. And I put out another track, spoken word. Trying to remember the title right now. It is about why do the nations plot and rage in vain. It's called I Desire Your Body. And then I put out a single, which is a CHH song, which is my best artwork to this day, which is called Hell and Back, Bomb the Track. And that's the one you're about to play. And the one at the beginning of the video is a new unreleased track called Push. And if you want to play that video, go ahead. But you can find all my music on Spotify. Please give me a follow. You can find my website, TheRealLazar.com. You can download my music. Some of it's free. Some of it you can pay for. You can make that choice. You can downstream on Spotify. Really appreciate all the support or just the listens.
We have by the way, all those links are in the description below on YouTube. A $5 super chat from Matthew Johnson. Thank you, sir. Lazarus has an amazing choice with words. Are others hearing it? Do you know Father Barnabas Powell in Georgia? You two definitely need to connect.
I haven't. If you're responding to my music, are others hearing it? Not too much now. I just took a class from an artist named Manifest.
He's just saying you have a way with words, and I think you do. I mean, you have a facility with language, is what I would call it. I don't know if that's a term.
Oh, I got you. I understand. I have not met Father Barnabas. I chatted with him one time. I am actually wondering when he's going to write his book on his journey from Pentecostalism to Orthodoxy, because I'd love to get that book for my mom if he's going to be writing that, or if he's still writing that. I thought he was in the makes of writing that. I may be wrong.
Castle Incorporated has a kind comment saying, yes, words are the overflowing of the heart, and his heart is full of beauty and spirit.
Appreciate that. Thank God.
All right, I'll pull up your track here if you would like.
All right.
Is now the time?
Sure. Thank you.
Born to survive, hell and back, like the dark from a heartbeat on the track. Iron, I rebel, conquer. Iron, I prevail, conquer. Born to thrive, been through hell and back. Spark a fire from a heartbeat on the track. Iron, I rebel, conquer. Iron, I prevail, conquer. Arrived by walking unannounced menace. Supplied by I, an apprentice. Survived by the master's phonetics. Abide by Big Ten Sermon on the Mount ethics. Guide by ripping hell's gates off engines. Alive by race of life, check genetics. Truth and try, kingdom come, calling the medics. Live by from academics to aesthetics. Hidden cleft to the rock, strong tower I dwell. Hit them, chanting down Babylon, Babel fell. Equip them, Apostles' Creed intel. Tell them no myth, legends prevail. Sworn to survive, been through hell and back. Like the dark from a heartbeat on the track. Iron, I rebel, conquer. Iron, I prevail, conquer. Born to thrive, been through hell and back. Spark a fire from a heartbeat on the track. Iron, I rebel, conquer. Iron, I prevail, conquer. Go get 'em. Holy sons linked up like a cartel. Resist them. Giants disobeyed with this inkwell. Forbidden. Darkest spells expelled by the God spell. Forgive them. From Gehenna to Golgotha's hill. Y'all listen. Who the storming gates of hell? Assist them. Elevate us and so well. Afflict them. Viscerate wickedness. Death kneel. Enlist them. Strong survive. Courage excels. Unbidden. Black on black style. Still holiness still. Go lift them. A rising of a fire tide swell. Go get 'em, consuming fire for real. Sworn to survive, been through hell and back. Like the dark from a heartbeat on the track. Iron, I rebel, conquer. Iron, I prevail, conquer. Born to thrive, been through hell and back. Spark the fire from my heartbeat, bomb the track. Iron, I rebel, conquer. Iron, I prevail, conquer.
There it is, his best song. So maybe we should have led with that, man. We're burying the lead.
Maybe so, perhaps.
How many people are going to get it into an hour into this and then watch it, you know?
Yeah.
So who do you think is a better rapper? The Real Lazar or Young Penitent?
It's not competition, it's collaboration.
I think you have some strengths. Like, you have some strengths and I have some strengths, you know?
You're a better storyteller.
Am I? Like, you know a lot about, you're like in the game, you know? You like know about it and like the technicals and how to, you know, you're like telling me, yeah, you need to switch up your flow every 4 to 8 bars or something. What was it? How many?
Yeah, I was told to switch up my flow every 4 to 8 bars.
4 to 8 bars. And I was like, I had never even considered, like, I didn't think about that. I just would write a song and it came out how it came out, you know? Like, I was like, I didn't even listen to a lot of rap, honestly, you know? Like, I was just like, I'm kind of like the weird guy off in the woods who just like came up with some, you know, like some like Uncle Ted, you know, out in the woods, just like writing raps instead of whatever, you know, the manifesto or something. But
you were in the arena before I was, brother.
Yeah.
This wouldn't be happening without you. I appreciate you having me on your channel.
Yeah, sure. We tried to collaborate. We were trying to put you and me. We got together. We were trying to get all the Orthodox rappers together. And
still talk to some of them. Some of the producers are rappers.
Yeah.
It definitely did fizzle out.
Fizzled out. I think I'm more of a solo guy, probably. I've always been solo. I've never done really collaborations. Are you writing? Still writing? Are you writing daily, every once a week? How does it? Do you write when the inspiration hits you? Like, I had a verse. I woke up this Saturday and had a verse come into my head, and I put out a few bars. I don't know if I'll finish it. I mean, that's gonna take some work. I'm gonna have to sit down and work it out. But
I sit down with concepts now.
Do you?
I sit down with ideas and concepts. Yeah, I don't write lines or bars like I used to.
Huh.
But I have 4 projects already written.
4?
They're just back burner. Yeah, 4.
4 songs or
well,
or albums or what?
3 albums, 1 song, 1 single.
1 single and then 3 albums full of songs. So a bunch of songs. You have a lot of work. You've been working. You work a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of it will never see the light of day. Maybe, you know, it's just like, if God wills, you know, it'll get accomplished. It'll get finished. But I'm just backstocking stuff and see what will ripen fruit wise and what I should do, what I shouldn't do, which routes I need to go artistically, which routes I shouldn't go. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not evangelical, so you know, I'm not doing a show at the Orthodox Church,
right?
So you know, I want to do festivals. I want to do concerts at like local venues, and I mean, for all intents and purposes, if I write the music right, you know, even bars, you know, like, take it there.
You know, when I had my album, like, I was looking around like everywhere I could to try to find places to go perform, and I ended up having to basically set up my own shows where I could, and that was at like coffee shops or bars or something. You know, I'd go to open mics and then set up my own shows here and there. I only did a handful though, you know, and there's not a lot of opportunities where I live, not a lot of Christians, not a lot of interest. I thought, you know, if I really wanted to make it as a Christian rapper, I'd probably need to go to a big city, preferably in the South where there's more Christians and people are more friendly to Christianity. But, and then just go to every opportunity, every open mic, work, you know, you'd have to just work. It'd be, and you know, just try to get heard and perform as much as possible, keep writing, keep producing. You know, that would have been the way to do it, you know. I don't think it's going to happen here where I live in this little sleepy college town, you know.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I've just been doing open mics. I do a lot of poetry, you know, spoken word poetry, and go to the open mics. And I actually have my first hip hop show, which I haven't done a show before. I've just been making songs, and I get to do a show on October 31st, Halloween, at a Christian open mic. I'm going to be the featured artist to do a 20 to 25 minute set, 4 or 5 songs.
4 or 5 songs? Oh, sweet. How'd you get that? How'd that fall into your lap?
I asked the host.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Mutual friend, poet, yeah, comedian.
Good luck with that. And I think you must have been, do you like run with like other poets and stuff? Like hang out with them? Do you?
Of course, hanging out with all the poets.
You're probably picking up a lot. You're probably learning a lot from them.
Yeah, I mean, I do take a learner's position of being humble, to humble myself and try to learn from everybody. Usually everybody. Some people it's kind of like I'm weary of, because I may hear how they talk and I'm like, I don't really like this person's vibe or whatnot, you know?
Yeah.
But for the most part, like those people that are a little more established from me, I want to learn from them. You know, they have something to teach me. Everybody actually has something to teach us, but yeah.
So, what is your purpose with your music? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to, you know, evangelize? What is it?
That's a good question. It's, I've been thinking about this in the past few days, actually. In the past week, I've been taking a class online, and it's kind of made me question my intention with it, because on one hand, I want to make an impact for Christ, right? And then on the other hand, I want, you know, a lot of people to hear my music. And of course, at the end of the day, I want to make some money too, right? You know, I'd like to even, you know, make a side, you know, like a side hustle living, or it to be more than a hobby. So it initially started off as, this is my offering unto the Lord. And it still is that, and still will be that. I may lean a little less hard into the Christian lyricism and more into motivational. So it could still have biblical or Christ-like themes and principles and values. But I'm thinking about doing, you know, because I want to do sync licensing, which is a thing you do for commercials and movies and TV shows, stuff like that. So it's just, there's, you know, context is key. So like with my album, The Established EP, I wanted people to know this is what I believe, and there to be no questions about where my foundation is as a foundational album. And then that is, and like I used it for the purposes of education as a layman, as an artist, because a lot of those are poetic reinterpretations of text. One of them is the Sermon on the Mount. One of them is the Tradition of the Two Ways. One of them's a proclamation of the gospel. That's called the Godspell. The Godspell. Excuse me, the Godspell of Peace. But the initial first track on that album is the Nicene Creed, and that's what we believe as Orthodox Christians. But it's at the end of the day, it's always kind of going to be evangelical. I'm going to be trying to encourage, comfort, and strengthen others, whatever the music's going to be, God willing.
So what do you have? What are your plans in terms of future projects? What are you planning? What's coming up next?
I'll keep one hidden right now because I put that on the back burner and I'm not messing with that right now. But the two that I'm excited about, one more so than the other, and one I'm focusing on. The first one that I'm less focused on right now, but I started first and finished it, is a 3-song EP tentatively titled Prodigal. And it's the parable of the prodigal son done in 3 songs or 3 stages. And the lyrics are cryptic. And it's got that kind of style and flavor to it. It's very cryptic. It's kind of, like Wu-Tang, Ghostface. And so that's the first project. The second project that I'm more interested in and spending more time right now, and I will be doing a Kickstarter. I'll be doing 2 Kickstarters, actually, a 2-parter. So stay on the lookout for that if anybody in the audience is watching. And I'm doing that because I believe my music can impact people. And like I said, my intention is in my artist statement for people not to feel alone, find belonging and a way home. And that's that come and see to the Orthodox Church. The second project is a testimonial project. It's my story. It's my life story. I wrote up 2 testimonies, one 10 years ago and then one a few weeks ago, and I added them together, rewrote it, edited it, and then I used that and made a poem out of that. So I already have a poem, and then I made a 7-song album that is structured lyrically to fit into, like 12-bar verses. And I am looking for producers to do the production for that. I've reached out to some already. And what we went over tonight, and if anybody wants to follow me on my personal page on Facebook, I'm on there, and my life story is up on there with the poem. But I'll be doing a Kickstarter for this album, and I've tentatively called it Eternal Return, Ashes to Icon. So that's the one I'm excited about. That's what I have no date of release. This could take a year and a half or more or less. So God willing, this is what I am working on and will hopefully finish. That's the plan.
How much money do you need to make that happen?
Huh?
How much does it take to make that happen?
I haven't done the numbers yet because the producers haven't got back to me, but a rough estimate would be probably 10,000 or more.
Oof.
Yeah. Could be less, could be more. I'm already working with a studio that's a Focusrite, and you don't need anything fancy to make this music, but to pay for production and pay the costs to other artists to do verses or other artists to do production, these people want to get paid, and rightly so.
Sure.
And then, I got to make merch and all this stuff because I'm still starting out. I've only been doing this for 5 years, so hopefully your audience can see this, and when they hear me talking, they give me a little grace. I'm making my way.
All right, so let's see. I'm going to show quick your this is his website. So you guys can TheRealLazar.com. You guys can go here, put your here's your email. You can sign up, put your email, and then I guess you'll get on the mailing list, and you'll know all about what's happening next. Like you'll get all the info coming out. So,
And if you want to keep up to date, day by day or week by week, I'm on Instagram and it's on my website, or you just follow me at The Real Lazar. Should be my handle on Instagram.
all right. Okay, you got anything else to say before we head out?
That's
Any
it.
any last words? No?
I appreciate you. Gratitude to you, and thank you to the audience and whoever's going to listen to this in the future. I hope it inspires some people to inquire of orthodoxy and come check out my music if you want to.
All right, thank you, sir, and thank you to the people in the chat, everybody who watched to the end, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Ta-ta.